Okay, couple quick announcements. Hope you had a good weekend and that the first week went okay. It's kind of a switch going online and just getting used to that, but hopefully the videos are helping. And main thing is that you're submitting your assignments, the photos. Make sure that you go ahead and hit submit. I think most of this class is doing very well with that. So, but I did want to also announce I got new markers. So I'm excited about that. I was able to leave self-quarantine, so that's the big news. But I did also want to kind of lay out what this week will be like. A few little changes from just watching videos every day, just because we're going to get close to our first test. But I just wanted to say today, the video, after we're done with this and going through this, I'm going to do a couple new things. You will still upload a photo of the assignment that I leave for you. So today's the same as we've been doing. Watch the video, do the problems, and upload photos of that. Tomorrow, the only difference is it will not be a video. It's just going to be a photo of your study guide. And so it'll just be problems. That's why I didn't do a video. It's nothing, no new material, just your problems. Those that have had me before know I like to have a study guide for your test. So it'll just be all the problems from the unit together. So you'll just, instead of watching a video, you'll click on the photo and do those problems. You'll still upload your photo for the assignment and for the attendance. So that doesn't change once you do those problems from the photo. Just take a photo of your work and upload that. Wednesday, there is going to be a video of just the answers of the study guide. Okay, that way if you missed any, and instead of just giving you the answers and you trying to figure out where you made your mistake, I'm going to do a video of how I worked those problems, so that if you made a mistake, you can see where it was. I will not have an assignment on that though, because it'll just be your answers, but I do need to take attendance. So all I need you to do on Wednesday is, when you watch the video, just make a comment underneath on the stream, on the video stream. So that video is going to post to your stream. Just make a comment that you watched it. Just either put "I watched this" or "Hey, I'm present," so that way I can mark you for attendance. Okay, so Wednesday there won't be an assignment in the classwork. They'll just be make a comment under that video that you watch for your answers. Thursday will be the test, and I'll be making an announcement about how that will be on Thursday. So that way you can kind of see what you're doing for the week. So today's same thing, just watch the video, do the assignment, and upload that photo to your work, okay? I did also want to answer the problems from Thursday, okay? That way you've got those correct. So those problems I had you do on addition and subtraction, where I had you go through and answer those problems, okay? So these were the ones that I had you put them all together, where you had to do the two-step process. So -4 plus 8. Okay, there's no double signs. Each sign is different, so you go over here and subtract them. You get 4. The bigger number's positive, so it's +4. Okay, number 2, that was number 1. Number 2, you had -3, and then -12, or -3, -12. No double signs, but the signs are the same, so you add the numbers. Get 15, and because they're both negative, it's -15. Okay, that's if you're doing that two-step process and going through that. Number 3 does have a double sign, so you got 7 plus -10. Okay, so that plus minus becomes 7 minus 10. Okay, they're one of each, so you subtract the numbers, and the bigger number is negative, so it's -3. Okay. Number 4 is -3 minus -7. So you've got a double sign right here that you need to make a positive. Okay, they're each separate. One's a negative, one's a positive. So you subtract the number. 7 minus 3 is 4. The bigger one's positive, so it's +4. Number 5 is 13 minus 46. Now this is one that the positive and negative, you may need to go over here to subtract them. Okay, you get 33. And the bigger number is negative, so it's -33. Okay, so that's the first 5. It's that two-step process. Hopefully By now it's becoming a little more second nature. If you're having to look each time, that's fine as well. Okay. Number 6 was 8 plus 4. Don't have to make that any harder than it is, but they're both positive numbers, so you add them. And because they're both positive, it stays positive. Okay, number 7 is negative 3 plus minus 15. So you've got a double sign here that needs to become one negative. Then because they're both negative, you add them together, and they're both negative, so it's negative. These are the same kind of problems. You know, these are both positive, so you add them and it stays positive. These are both negative, so you add them and it stays negative. Okay? These are actually the same kind of problems. It's just we're used to seeing this, not as quite as used to seeing that. Okay, number 8 was negative 15 plus 42. One's negative, one's positive, so you need to subtract them. Okay, you get 27. And because the bigger one's positive, it's a positive 27. Okay? Number 9 was 8 minus 3. One's a positive, one's a negative. You subtract them, bigger one's positive, positive. Once again, you don't have to make that harder than it is. It's 8 minus 3. But just so you know, it does fit into the two-step process. Then the last one, negative 5 minus negative 12. He's got a double sign here, so negative 5 plus 12, one of each. So you subtract the numbers, the bigger one's positive, so it's 7. Okay. So here's these 10 problems. The hardest thing is going to be the addition and subtraction, because you got double signs, you got the two-step process, and it just plays with the mind a little bit. But just make sure you're following that two-step process, practicing that, check your answers, see where you made your mistakes, and then kind of keep practicing from there. What I want to look at today, the new material, it's actually easier. It's easier, even though it's multiplication and division with positive and negative numbers, it's actually an easier thing to do. Okay. I know multiplication and division is usually harder than addition and subtraction, but really with negative numbers, it's not as hard because there's really one set of rules. That is when you multiply and divide. So we're talking about multiplying and dividing now, not adding and subtracting. And so one of the main things is to kind of, when you see a problem, especially when it's getting mixed in with the others, like your study guide will be tomorrow, the first thing is identifying, which is a multiplication and division problem. But when you're multiplying, dividing, if you have one of each, meaning a positive and a negative number, no matter what order they're in, so, if the positive first and the negative second or vice versa, if they're one of each, then the whole thing will always become negative. There's no which one's bigger. That always will become out negative, okay? So what that could look like is 30 times negative 4. Now, what's hard about this is just that we just did 30 minus 4, or negative 4 plus 30, or something like that. This is times because, if you remember, a parentheses by parentheses means you times. Now, there is no, just so you see the difference, this is like what we just did. There's a sign in between those parentheses, and so we made that it was a double sign, so we made it and then did it as an addition subtraction problem. What's different is there is no sign in between the parentheses, so that means you are multiplying, okay? And when you multiply, okay, so you just do your normal multiplication. 30 times 4, which is 120, okay? And because you've got a positive negative, it's a negative 120. So you just do your multiplication, 30 times 4, and then if they're one of each, it's a negative. Another example, if they wrote it like this, 2, and they put a times sign and just kind of show you for sure it's times. They don't have to. It could look like this. But if they show you for sure it's times, you just do 2 times 3, they're one of each, so it's negative 6. Another way they could write it is just one of them in parentheses. This right here does not mean negative 57. Negative 57 would just be written without a parentheses. But when they have a parentheses there, they mean to multiply. So negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. because one's a negative and one's a positive. Division. How they're mainly going to see it is as fractions. So they'll write it like this, and you still are just doing 30 divided by 6. But the difference is one of them's positive, one of them's negative. So this actually becomes a negative 5. See, 30 divided by 6 is 5, and because one's positive and one's negative, it's negative 5. Another way is maybe the negative's on top. Okay, that doesn't change anything though. A negative, so 50 divided by 10 is 5, and the negative's on top, but one of them's negative, one of them's positive, so it's also negative 5. Okay? If they write it out, if they go ahead and write it out like negative 3 divided by 1, that's fine. You do it as a division problem, 3 divided by 1, and one's positive, one's negative, so it's a negative 3. Okay? So multiplication and division, if they're one apiece, then the whole thing becomes negative. That's an easy, simple rule to remember. One of each, the whole thing becomes negative. Doesn't matter which one's negative, which one's not. One of each, they each become negative. In the flip side of that, now we know a positive, and a positive comes out positive. Okay, we know that. 8 times 4, something like that. Okay, it's going to be positive 32. Okay, that we don't really necessarily need to cover. If they're both positive, there's no negatives involved whatsoever. It's going to be positive. But if they are both negative, okay, if both the signs are negative. So here's the difference between with what we just did. If they were one apiece, the whole thing became negative. But if they're both negative, then the whole thing becomes positive. So that's going to look like this. You may have negative 2 times negative 4. Okay, that's a negative times a negative. So when you have that, it's become a positive 8. You still do 2 times 4, but the whole thing becomes positive. Negative 3, they may write it times with the little dot for time. Negative times a negative is positive. Okay? And it's the same thing if they write just one of them in parentheses. I'm giving you just different looks. So when you're multiplying, this is not negative 5 minus 3. I want you to look at the difference. This has a sign between them. This, you've got a parentheses, and there's no sign there. Okay? So this means to multiply. So this is 5 times 3, and because they're both negative, it's a positive 15. Same thing with division. Okay, if you've got a negative divided by a negative, the whole thing is positive. You still do 30 divided by 3, but it's a positive 10 in this case. Okay, so really multiplying and dividing is much easier with negative numbers. If they're one apiece, the whole thing becomes negative. If they're the same sign, negative, negative, the whole thing becomes positive. It's just mainly they're going to be identifying what they look like. Okay. Now all of these that I'm going to put up for today's assignment are going to be multiply and divide. So you don't have to worry about me mixing in some of the addition and subtraction ones. These are all going to be multiply or divide. So it gives you a look at what kind of problems they look like. Okay. So none of the, I'm not going to slip in any addition and subtraction on these. Tomorrow's, the study guide will have them all mixed together. So there'll be some addition, there'll be some multiplication, division, subtraction, all that will be mixed in. But these are just multiply or divide. Okay, there's 7 problems. So you're just going to practice whether, it's the whole thing is going to become negative or the whole thing is going to become positive. Okay, so 4 times negative 3, negative 7 times negative 2, negative 3, 5. That's a 4, negative 4. Okay, so those 7 problems, you're either multiplying or dividing, and it's negatives and positives. Okay, so do those problems, upload your photo, and then tomorrow just be watching for your study guide to post. Probably what I'll do is too on these, just so you have the answers. These won't necessarily need explanations. I'll probably post tomorrow as well. I'll probably say, hey guys, here was the answers to those 7 problems, just written out so that you can see them. But anyway, all right, thanks guys.